This episode of Arrays of Living delivers the second chapter of the Aladdin Carpets book, and it's called The Possibilities You Can See. In keeping with my commitment, in lieu of an audiobook for my book, Aladdin Carpets, which you can find on Amazon, I am delivering each of the chapters once a month as part of the podcast. And hence, this is the second month in which you will now get the second chapter. The possibilities you can see. Some people look in the mirror and see a reflection of themselves, while others look in the mirror and see so much more looking back. It is not the mirror, it is the onlooker. Aladdin Carpets is about one of the most important choices we have in life. It's not about buying a house or choosing a car, but rather it is about making choices that will pave the way to a much more satisfying and higher quality of life. It is about shifting the idea of who we think we are and aligning every aspect of ourselves. It is about validating the person you need to become and living intentionally to achieve that vision of you. Having worked in healthcare, I have come to accept that there are two things we absolutely cannot control: coming into this world and leaving it behind. The time in between those two events, one such choice is what you see yourself doing and achieving during this in-between phase called life. In living that life, what vision do you have and what image of yourself do you hold? Answers to these questions are all about personal choice, and thankfully, most of us have the freedom to choose our path. Now, it is easy to talk about having a vision for yourself, but how do you achieve that? The first thing to realize about us as humans is the fact that we are multidimensional. I once dreamed about overall fitness, which included the physical, the mental, and spiritual dimensions. These are all aspects of each of us, and all of which we need to be kept at an ideal level. Interestingly, each dimension has something essential at their core. At the core of our physical dimension is the heart. At the core of our mental dimension is the brain. And at the core of our spiritual dimension is the soul, or spirit, whichever you choose. The thread holding all these dimensions together is love. A vision of yourself must include all three. When you create your carpet, you will intricately interlace the threads. You will lovingly select and weave them into the correct pattern and size. And then with the right tools and materials, you will deliver a strong, durable, and high quality product. It will be a true representation of yourself that will withstand the test of time. The strength of you that you give your carpet must be based on developing these dimensions of yourself and using the results to form personal goals. And having such goals means seeing the possibilities to mark the world with your existence. The possibilities you see will most likely end up being things that have always been in your life. They are common threads that follow you wherever you go and are used in whatever you do. They will be subtle because you have been doing them for so long. They are second nature, and at this point in time, they are taken for granted. Most people get to choose the type of person they want to become, a possibility of themselves. And that version of themselves should include all three dimensions. To illustrate, I managed to find my high school yearbook and was reminded of an acronym I was affectionately called back then, BBM. And it was done especially in my last year of high school. Most people referred to me by this nickname, so the warm sentiments captured in my yearbook have it affectionately mentioned. The label was given to me because of my tendency to openly speak up and out on things around me. So even then, without the technology of podcasting, I was doing it in the old ways. And for pushing changes or activities based on student needs. Together with friends, we created a Students for Progress movement. And that had been started, and all those involved received recognition upon graduation for the positive impact it had on the school and the students. So even back then, I knew my calling. My carpet had been flying then and in the right direction. However, at some point, I lost my way. You see, the acronym stood for Big Blabber Mouth. And most people would take that negatively, and it would sound like I'm a gossiper. It was not that. It was me speaking out about the things that were important to us as students. Me being a part of the student council, me creating connections through cultural days. And I know that BBM and what it stands for, Big Blabber Mouth, I know it sounds bad without context, but in finding that yearbook, I was reminded that speaking and using my voice for positive change, whether verbally, as I'm doing here in my podcast, or in writing, had been my superpower then and had been that constant force in my life ever since. When I lost sight of that fact, my Aladdin carpet had weakened and lost altitude, thereby reducing the pursuit of speaking in any big way. And yet somehow in my career, I still managed to take on roles that involved speaking, presenting, and delivering changes. In fact, I was drawn to those problem-solving, high visibility roles. In my personal life, I have always been able to share my thoughts and opinions with friends and family. So while my carpet did not fall to the ground, it certainly flew low. I was not unhappy. I did not hate my job. I made good money. I was recognized and respected personally and professionally. And yet I was restless and I did not feel fulfilled. I always felt there was more out there for me. How many of you feel that way? The possibilities you see for yourself will require aspects of each of the dimensional areas. On the physical side, we need to exercise regularly. We need to eat well, hydrate often. We need to get sufficient rest and relaxation, and we need to practice good hygiene. This book is not going to speak to each of these points because there is plenty of information out there that provide a variety of thoughts and just as much guidance on the topic. However, far too often, I hear people say they wish to change some aspect of their physical being, yet the follow-through is weak. Overall fitness on any of the dimensional levels is difficult, but physical is one of the toughest. A shift in mindset is needed to have success in that dimension of ourselves. This is true for most things in life, including using our inherent gifts. If you are seeking to be physically fit for someone else, you will probably not achieve or maintain the goal. If you are seeking to be physically fit for any reason other than yourself, you have lost before you have even begun. For a maintainable level of fitness, you must get to know what works for you in this dimension of yourself. For example, at this point in my life, my personal preference is for high-intensity interval training, also known as HIIT, H-I-I-T, and that includes weights, walking, stair climbing, and bicycling to stay fit. I also know that my routine must fit effortlessly into my lifestyle. Going out of my way to exercise would set me up for failure. So I don't entertain anything that is outside those parameters. Do you see how easily I could summarize my choice of activities and the way that best works for me to fulfill and maintain and take care of the physical dimension of myself? I recognize this is a book, a chapter, but trust me when I say writing these details and capturing them took no time or lengthy thinking. For me, they are simply facts that show what degree I know myself. You need to achieve the same or an even greater level of self-knowledge. I say greater because for each of us, self-discovery is a journey. It does not just end, it evolves. And who we are as individuals evolves with it. More importantly, knowing such facts about yourself should not be easily swayed by new trends or peer pressure. If something comes up that seems plausible for you, try it. If you know yourself well, you will know very quickly whether it will work are not in your best life. As we live, many events will occur that will impact us. So we must be able to adapt to move forward on our journey. I consider trial and error to be a great way to figure things out and to master what should be a harmonious interchange of learning, pursuing, understanding, then repeat. With each repetition, you create deeper wisdom and awareness, a lifelong dance. That's what I call it. And I love that analogy. I love the visual that presents a lifelong dance. But let's move to the mental side of our dimensions. For the mental side of our dimensions, we need to manage stress. We need to function in a way that balances life demands. Take gratitude breaks. Practice reciprocity, eliminate negativity, and the most freeing of all, cleaning our closets using honesty, authenticity, and loving forgiveness. In much the same way as for physical fitness, many of these areas of mental fitness have available resources to guide you in mastering them. However, I want to spend time on some key points. The first is to take the time to be grateful. I do this when I wake up and throughout the day as a reminder of my blessings. In the stillness of early morning, I love seeing night fade away as daylight settles in to take over its shift. There is so much beauty in that interplay. It feeds my soul. I am most spiritually attuned to my inner voice during that time of day. And everyone is different. So you must find your own daily wonder. But remember that it is important to pause and reflect on what you have and are thankful for. Next, eliminate negativity from your life as much as you can. This includes any negativity from others and yourself. Include yourself in that. I know you may not be able to fully eradicate it, but in striving for full elimination, you may get close to 0%. One of the things I did well over 15 years ago, is shut down my cable services. I found that the quality of TV and media had declined, and the messaging was wreaking havoc with my spirit and mind. So I did what others considered the unthinkable. I got rid of it. Do you know how many comments I got and people and friends saying, what? No cable? None. The amazing thing in having done this, along with having removed most negative stimuli from my life, was that I found that my outlook was revitalized. I was staying upbeat and positive, and I defined my days in my own way, based on my optimistic and good intentions. I cannot say whether this is for you or not, but the message is that you must find what approach will work for you. In doing so, you will become highly sensitive and immediately aware of negative vibes when they are present. Your response will be as reactionary as being burnt or getting a paper cut. You will pull back and protect the area because you're no longer used to it. You've cleaned the house. So when you see it, you begin to recognize it immediately and you feel completely discomforted in it. Furthermore, how many of you have lived with either your own or the closet secrets of others? In my experience, these secrets have wreaked havoc again on the mental state of many. So work on cleaning your closets and keeping them clean. When preparing this book and chapter, I was asked, could this relate to making sure we have the most important materials in our closet to be able to create our carpet? The question actually made me pause. First, because I loved the question. And second, because it demonstrated our instinct or tendency to harbor things. That is our comfort zone. But I'm asking for a cleansing of old ways and norms. In other words, my answer is that we have no need to hold or store things. We were born with everything we need to create our carpet. Tap into those inherent capabilities that will be supported by inherent skills. Life will add the lessons learned, the circumstances or experiences to bring out the needed materials to use your talents. Some are dealt harsher lessons than others, but we can all move beyond them. For example, the Special Olympics and people like Terry Fox demonstrated that greatness is still possible. Cleaning out the closets is about truly getting rid of any emotional baggage. It is about honesty and authentic living. It is about sharing what needs to be shared with those it should be shared with at the time it needs to be shared. Do not harbor hurts, disappointments, and anger. These create closets. Instead, speak your truths when they need to be spoken. I'm not someone that holds grudges or keeps things hidden. I say what must be stated in the most direct way. For example, I am the type of person that has very little tolerance when someone confronts me about something well past when it should have been mentioned then, and has the expectation that I will respond in a compassionate way. When put in such a position, all anyone can say is sorry, but that may not be enough to heal the wound. So what then? How can you deal with it such a long time after the actual event that caused it? And many times the person bringing it up has actually lost track of all the core details. So all you can say at that point in time is sorry. Cleaning closets is not calling for immediacy, as some people must take the time to digest and think about their emotions after the fact. But address the problems when they arise, or at least within a reasonable time frame, so that those related to the problems can be helpful and can also be, most importantly, sensitive to how you feel. Then their apologies and or recognition of your feelings have more meaning, and it has a more positive impact. So come to terms with all the past hurts, disappointments, and transgressions. Then let them go. Even if they were from childhood, let them go. It can be as simple as acknowledging and letting go, or it can be a more complex process you take that leads to letting go. Whatever path you choose, your endpoint should be one that allows you to move beyond those closet secrets. This is truly cleaning closets. I always say that I have forgiven, but not forgotten. Forgiveness is being able to move forward and get beyond a situation, while remembrance is to acknowledge the lessons that were learned. Essentially, commit to living a life of integrity that includes an ongoing, unapologetic personal vision. As you do this, there will be times when you will need to be completely honest and forgiving of yourself and possibly others. Steps 5, 8, and 9 of Alcoholics Anonymous, often known as AA, were not instilled on a mere whim. They were instilled to ensure that people with alcoholism could achieve mental relief from the impacts of their addiction that affected themselves and others. They could then begin working towards forgiveness. AA's 12 steps consider mental fitness and for all-around recovery. This is the importance of mental fitness, no less important than physical fitness. And sadly, there seems to be this nonchalant and shameful view towards nurturing our mental state. On the spiritual side, we need to upkeep our soul and spiritual stamina by journaling. This encourages reflection, positivity and laughter, gratitude for each day, appreciation for what we have and who we are, acknowledgement of our weaknesses, and pampering of our soul. Our spiritual dimension is usually sacrificed many times to prioritize other things. Some believe that by going to a religious institution, they are addressing this dimension, but I'm not convinced that religion completely fills the gap. When I spoke about outward versus inward, or the greatest youth tonic, I was addressing spiritual fitness. Having a spa day for myself, for example, is one way of addressing this dimension of fitness as well. Every aspect of spiritual fitness that I have listed is a priority because each one, and this has been proven through research, contributes to overall health. To illustrate again, one of my problems was that I had been expending most of my energy on others. I was a business owner, a mother, and a wife. The demands on my time and energy were enormous and shifted away from me. Nothing changed until I started flowing some of that time and energy inwards, back to me, To do that, I had to make some changes in my life, and many of which were about reducing my commitments. Once that was done, so many things became clear. Keep in mind that I was a person that set goals and reflected often, which meant that I had been very self-aware and purpose-driven. However, at some point, I still lost my perspective and my way. Now, imagine if you are a person that is not as self-aware, not goal-driven, does not reflect on things, or perhaps you sit somewhere in the middle of these extremes. Are you lost? And if you are, just how lost are you? Earlier, I said that love is what connects all the dimensions of who we are, but that love starts with you. Self-care and self-love should not be underestimated. Each of us needs to accept and love all aspects of who we are. As humans, we can be strong, frail, great, flawed, and so on. We need to embrace all these aspects of ourselves, the good, the bad, and the ugly, with the same love and compassion we give to others. We need to correct the pieces of ourselves we do not like and wish to change. I had to figure this out at a very young age because I could not understand how this loving God, the one I kept hearing about each week in church, had placed a child in such a shitty situation. I looked for him externally, but found nothing. And the scriptures made no sense to me if he were indeed an external force. Religious leaders did not approve of me questioning the Bible and the scriptures within as well. For these reasons, I shifted my outlook and considered that God was internal. From that point forward, the unrelenting love for my God and so much more finally made sense. All the miracles and power described within the scriptures were at my fingertips with that perspective. I was more in control. I chose how to perceive anything that happened to me, good or bad, and I chose to see the good in most things around me. That was a choice, and it was a changing point in my life. My necessity to nurture self-love was reinforced and it was rewarded. It taught me that self-love is good love and is different from conceit and self-involvement. Irrespective of what God or religion you believe in, you know there is an inner voice that speaks to you. Your inner genie, as I tend to refer to it. But you can also call it your gut instinct or intuition. But whatever the name, it is there and it needs attention. So I'm encouraging those who are not practicing loving themselves to try it. Doing so will begin to connect you to that something within. It could be something small like treating yourself to your favorite meal, or something big like going on a trip to a place you have always wanted to visit. Self-love will also guide others on how to treat you and how you treat them. That is how powerful it can be. So when you consider the possibilities you see for yourself, factor in some self-love. See how that guides what you envision and what you need and how you can help others. We can permit others to mold us, or we can choose to mold ourselves by striving to become all that we are capable of. Look to inspirations like Malala Yousafzai, who was told that education was not for her because she was female. Guess what? She disagreed and spoke out in protest and went on to be the youngest winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, graduated from Oxford University, and was one of the most influential voices for female education at the age of 22. So we can follow others' standards, or we can choose to follow our own values and morals. We can allow others to define our degree of accomplishments, or we can choose our own path and level of achievement. Making the transition is moving towards greater self-care and self-love. I spent years going after someone else's aspirations and goals, camouflaged under what initially started out as my own dreams, until I realized that they were no longer mine. As such, all I could do was support and follow. I could not take them forward. I could not lead because the vision we were going after had become someone else's. What I learned is that we can go after others' purpose for us, or we can choose to elevate our living in a way that leads to greater understanding, appreciation, and meaning for ourselves. We are acknowledging ourselves and loving ourselves. Listen to what I call your inner genie, your inner you. In summary, much of what I have explained in this chapter is about the self and choice, all of which will amount to creating and strengthening your carpet. It is also important to know that getting fit is not an all or nothing proposition. Getting fit is a journey that starts with choice, acting based on love, and trial and error approaches. Most of the time, we think we are making decisions, but in reality, we are not. Somehow the idea of choice got skewed along the way. As free human beings, life is all about making choices. Therefore, you must work to ensure that you are doing so for yourself. They can be small, minor decisions, or they can be more meaningful ones. Either way, the life we lead is the result of those decisions. We choose what happens in our lives, we choose how we respond to events, and we choose to rise, stay status quo, or fall below our capacity. These are the options we face with our Aladdin carpet. I have already made my choice, and so did Malala. So what will you choose? And in thinking about all that you heard, your next step is to resolve to look after your heart. Choose to exercise regularly. Choose to eat well. Choose to hydrate often. Choose all the things that maintains that heart and maintains the vessel that holds you. Also look at your mental fitness. Look after your brain. Do brain exercises, Sudoku, puzzles, and stimulate your mental dexterity. And commit to being mentally strong. Aspire to achieve at least one mental goal. I want you to also acknowledge that your brain is the core of that mind. Manage stress in your life. Balance the demands. Stop and pause sometimes and just take a moment to take a daily gratitude break. Practice reciprocity. Interact with people. Nothing makes you feel better than helping someone in need. Minimize negativity in your life. So practice honesty, authenticity, and learn to forgive. Stop hoarding any more hurts, pains, or secrets. Look after your soul. Choose rituals that nurture your internal self. Commit to being spiritually strong. Put forth a spiritual goal and try to attain it. Practice daily reflection. Wake up in gratitude. Embrace each new day. Be thankful your eyes open. Be thankful you can rise from the bed. There's certain people that cannot get out of their bed. They're bedridden. So appreciate that you can. Learn to appreciate all that you have and stop focusing on what you don't. Appreciate the strengths that you have, the God-given talents you were given, your innate talents. But also understand that where you're not so strong in, where are some of your weaknesses? Even embrace those and definitely reject being defined by others. Laugh hard and often and pamper your soul. And last, embrace yourself and others with love. Leverage the 3 words I live by, lead with love. Leverage that. And on that note, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to this episode of Arrays of Living. And please be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You will also find in the description below my email address should you want to reach out, and I am happy if you do. And just to be sure, it's jen@youareworthmore.co, and worth more you definitely are. And lastly, also see the link that will allow you to schedule a meet and greet with me. And that's an opportunity for me to meet you and you to meet me and for us to have a chat. And that would be wonderful and welcoming. So please hit the link and let's set up a meet and greet.